He is one of the former players that is on Fox Sports' The Facility, airing from 11 to 1 Central Time. Chase Daniel, former NFL quarterback, thank you so much for joining us. Chase, the reason that I wanted to reach out and see if we could talk to you is because, A, I love to hear from a quarterback perspective, considering what's going on here in Minnesota, and B, you have been talking a lot about the Vikings recently.
I have. Huge Minnesota Vikings fan. You guys are having a dream season. It's been unbelievable.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you, at what point did you sit back and decide this team is good?
Well, being on a national show that airs every day, we're constantly talking about, the New York Jets and Aaron Rodgers and the Dallas Cowboys and all this stuff. And I'm the one that tries to sort of look outside the box and try to get on teams that are making waves. And I don't know, I always thought, even before the season, like, I'm a huge Kevin O'Connell fan, same age. And for me, he is the difference maker in y'all's season. And so when he went out and signed Sam Darnold and then drafted JJ McCarthy, I'm like, okay, he's got a plan in place for the season, because as you know, and as everyone knows, your season goes as your quarterback goes. So if you don't have good quarterback play, I don't care. It's just very rarely done without a good quarterback. And I've always truly been a Sam Darnold fan as well. So I just know that he has the talent. He just never had the system and the fit and the coach before. And so for me, I started pushing that. I'm like, let's talk about the Vikings. Let's talk about the Vikings. Let's talk about the Vikings. Because not only what they're doing on offense, but then you get Brian Flores doing what he does on defense, that schematics, like, it is next level. So we started talking about them today. We actually talked about them in 2 blocks today on our national show. So they are all the rage right now. I was one of the early ones.
All right, we like to hear that.
Just so you guys know. But I'm a big Sam Darnold fan for sure.
Right. He just earned his first Pro Bowl nod. What do you think has changed about his game? I mean, it sounds like you had the belief, so you knew he could get there. What has been the difference for him as like an example of that?
Well, look, I think for when you're a first round pick, and I don't care if it was 5-6 years ago, you're going to have the talent. There's a lot of things that go into quarterback play that a lot of people don't understand. And the first and foremost is how you're being coached. What are you being taught to do? And McCown, obviously the quarterback coach, deserves a lot of the credit as well. But with KOC, right, McVay disciple, he has his own little offense, and he's so good, KOC is, at forging relationships with quarterbacks. And that's the most important position in the building. And that's the most important relationship in the building. So Sam, I feel like all he needed to do was have someone truly believe in him and sort of hand over the keys to the kingdom, is like what Andy Reid used to say, was like, hey, it's your team, go with it. He's been phenomenal this year. I really think the year that he spent in San Francisco last year sort of reset him to be with Kyle Shanahan, to understand, okay, there's more than quarterbacking than just talent. You got to have a good fit around you. You got to have a belief in the system, and the coach has to have a belief in you. And you're seeing all 3 of those things come true this year for the Vikings.
What do you think Sam does best?
Well, he pushes the ball down the field, and it was talked about a lot, specifically this last game against the Packers. I thought, for me, he had his best game throwing the football. No, he set career high. It's easy to say the numbers, but in quarterbacking one-on-one, it's like, all right, if you're going to throw the ball between the numbers in the middle of the field, you better be deadly accurate. It's always easy if you're on the hash to throw outside of the numbers. I think it was 22 of 27, 289 yards and a few touchdowns in between the numbers, these layered throws that Sam's doing so well, which means over the linebackers, underneath the safeties, these dagger routes to Naylor, to JJ, to Jordan Addison, all these guys. It's like, it's a thing of beauty. Like, even the seam and 2-minute drive, for me, that's one of my favorite throws of the day to TJ Hawkinson, because one, it's a huge play. They were able to get a field goal out of it. They were able to get momentum. So all these small things. Now, he does throw some interceptions, but I don't feel like these interceptions are like dumb interceptions. Like, when you're in a quarterback room and I played the position, you're like, man, these are head scratcher throws. Like, he's trying to push the football down the field. So I love the way he's throwing the ball between the numbers.
I think one of the most impressive things about Sam is that even when he does throw those interceptions, the ability to go back out on the next drive and continue to sling it has been very impressive. Is that something that you find in a quarterback, or is that something that's teachable?
Well, it's the number one thing you have to have. It's short memory. And Andy Reid taught me that, and Sean Payton taught me that. I remember when I was playing with Drew down in New Orleans, I know you're a New Orleans girl. He always used to say, like, I don't care if you throw an interception. I don't care if you throw two interceptions. How do you finish the game? And honestly, the interception that Sam threw, he thought it was a different coverage. He didn't see the corner sneaking back into thirds, and he threw that interception. And quite honestly, it led the Packers back into the game, right? But the way he ended the game, I think that is the most impressive thing. He just has a confidence right now, and he's playing with a confidence, borderline cockiness. And that's a good line to live at because he feels and he knows he can make every throw. But without a doubt, short memory is like the number one trait, in my opinion, for a quarterback.
Yeah, I'm sure a lot of that confidence does come from Kevin O'Connell. You said a little while ago that you're a big fan of him. How long have you followed him, and what have you liked as you said you follow him as a player, you guys are the same age. What have you
Yeah.
followed him as a coach?
Well, I just think the number one thing, in my opinion, to be successful in this new age sort of NFL, like I played through three CBAs. I'm old, I'm 38, right? So I played through a lot of different CBAs. And these coaching staffs, when they get hired, you got to be one thing, and I sort of hate this, but I sort of like it. It's called a leader of men. You have to have a vision for the team, and you have to be able to get grown men. We're not talking about college. We're talking about grown men with kids, with lives to follow you. And you got to have this resolve in you. And he's the best I have seen at doing that. Obviously, he comes from McVay. He's his own coach, though. He's really good relationally. And we had him on our show with Diana Rosina, Scoop City. And when he was getting interviewed by Diana, he just, man, he's so hard. It's hard not to like him because he's just really down to earth. It's not like he's ever stressed out. He's really cool, calm, collected on the sideline. And you see that come through in the quarterback play. So for me, I think it's just how he runs the team because I do believe that you got to forge relationships with players nowadays. You can't just go in, this is the way we're doing it because this is how it's always done. There's always a rhyme and a reason. And I think he's one of the best at doing that.
It's so interesting you bring that up because I feel like his coaching style, while it's not wrong to be opposite, Dan Campbell is a little opposite. He's that gritty, hard-nosed, always
No
going to tell
doubt.
you how he feels, guys. So you've got these two head coaches on each side going head-to-head for literally what the NFL is calling one of the most consequential games ever in history in the regular season. What do you think it's going to take for the Vikings to go into Ford Field and beat a Lions team that literally looks like they are just unbeatable at times?
I mean, they really do look like Jared Goff's just having a season for the ages. I think first and foremost, it's going to start with Minnesota's defense. Like you have to get a stop. I don't care if it's a fourth down stop because you know they're going to go on. I don't care if it's a takeaway. I don't care if it's a sack fumble. I don't care if it's a muffed punt. I don't care what it is. You have to gain possessions in this game. Number two, offensively for Minnesota, you got to play a perfect game. And when I say perfect game, Detroit Lions defense since week 12, they're allowing almost 33 points a game because they're so injured defensively. They're playing third and fourth stringers. You have to go in this game, and I think KOC will, with the mindset we have to match Detroit's aggression on fourth down. In spots, we have to pick and choose. We have to hold on to the football. If we do that, then I think they got a good chance to win. Look, I am a huge fan of what Brian Flores does schematically because it's going to put Jared Goff in question. What does that mean? Well, all this double A mug, all these blitzes, Jared Goff's going to have to think. They're spending a lot of time right now, Jared Goff and the Lions, trying to pick up these blitzes, trying to pick up these pressures. And all of a sudden, Brian Flores will drop 8 on you, and he's not even pressuring. So you use all this mental energy on stuff that really doesn't matter. So it's going to be a fascinating matchup. It's gonna. I mean, I don't bet, right? I don't play draft. I don't do any of that. But if I were a betting man, I would 100% take the over on points scored this game.
Yeah, I think that everyone is expecting that shootout. It's a team that's, and the Lions are scoring like 40 plus points. And the Vikings, the most they've allowed was 31 to the Lions. And so, yeah, it's going to be a really, really exciting game. Of course, the NFL is saving the best for last as the Vikings and Lions will face off on primetime NBC Sunday Night Football. Thank you so much to Fox Sports' Chase Daniel. Of course, you can watch him on the facility weekdays from 11 to 1 Central Time. Chase, thank you so much for your insight.
Thanks for having me on.